the near on time start of the May 3rd City of Half Moon Bay City Council meeting. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. The first order of business this evening is the proclamation declaring this Bike Month. And joining me for the receive the proclamation is Carleen Foldenauer. Carleen here? Carleen, can you join me at the mic up here? So, Carleen, I want to present you with the proclamation honoring National Bicycle Month and Bike to Work Week, and award this to you. And if you please say a few words about this.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Carleen Foldenauer. I'm the Safe Routes to School Coordinator for Cabrillo Unified School District. We have been doing Safe Routes to School at Cabrillo Unified for 4 years now, and just found out today that we have funding for the 5th year. Our goal with Safe Routes to School is to enable more school children to walk, and what we're speaking about today is bike to school, or also any other form of active transportation, scootering, skateboarding, that kind of thing. So obviously the importance of getting more children to do this is it's healthy. It's a healthy activity. It's good for them. Also to reduce the congestion that's around the schools and on the streets near the schools and the parking lots. And last but not least is to reduce the pollutants in the air. And when Ellen Barton, who's the active transportation coordinator for San Mateo County, had asked me to come and receive this, she reminded me that 38% of the greenhouse gas emissions come from transportation in San Mateo County. And this has been unfortunately steady for the last 10 years. So Bike Month is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to take action and do something about it as individuals. So I really want to thank the council and the city for declaring this month, Bike Month, and also for supporting any infrastructure changes that will help to make biking more safe for all of us, our students and adults alike. Myself personally, I'm more of a pedestrian than I am a bicyclist, so I've actually just asked someone to come and join me for a moment. Josefina and Fanzin, please come up. Some of you may recognize Josefina. She's the secretary at Hatch Elementary School. And she is the perfect example of someone who supports bicycling. She actually has been biking to work and school, actually, since she works at the school, for 5 years. And she also encourages her 5th grade daughter, Anna Sophia, to bike to school. And more recently, she's been skateboarding, I think is her favorite. And last but not least, because she is the secretary at Hatch, which is our largest elementary school in Cabrillo Unified, she supports all the Safe Routes to School initiatives, the activities and things that we do around bike safety at Hatch. So I just want to present her as a great example to everyone for us to look to for, an example to bike more this month and ongoing. And again, thank you so much for supporting biking as an important transportation mode.
Thank you very much. And thank you for being a role model for our kids at Hatch Elementary School. That's really great. I recently just rode in a pretty large bike ride with 30,000 people to promote bike safety around, it was in New York City recently. And it's really important that we acknowledge this and we continue as a council to support a bike-friendly community. And I'm glad that we're doing that. So thank you. And The next item on our agenda is the presentation of the 2016 Leadership Awards. So I want to talk about this for just a moment, and we have a short presentation, but we're going to acknowledge some special students from our community this evening. In 2013, I approached the City Council, and 2012 perhaps we started, approached the City Council and proposed that we do something different. Something we hadn't done before, and my idea was to start recognizing youth in our community that are demonstrating leadership, that they are doing something above and beyond than what you would just see if you scan the horizon of the sea of children going to and from school, doing a little more. Not necessarily the 4.0 students, but there may be 4.0 students with great grades, but the students who are really demonstrating leadership, citizenship, and are role models for their peers. We started the Half Moon Bay Leadership Awards that year, and I'm really thrilled to be the mayor this year to be able to give out these awards. So with that, the criteria for the Leadership Awards is citizenship, leadership, work ethic, community service, overcoming obstacles, and accomplishing their goals. And each award comes with a monetary stipend. So not a bad day for an 8th grader getting $100 to use in a positive way, and a terrific way to plan a kickoff to college for a high school senior with a $1,000 scholarship from the city. This is my favorite thing that we do, that we can really honor these children who've done so much. I want to make a quick comment about all the applications. We received just fantastic essays from all the applicants. And myself, Marsha Riley, Steve Bassich from Parks and Rec, as well as staff, reviewed all the essays, and we scored them, and it was very difficult because all the kids are terrific. And out of all the kids in the school district that live in Half Moon Bay, a small handful, a couple dozen applied, and I think that alone is exemplary. That alone says they're reaching and pushing and striving for more, and that alone I think is worthy of acknowledgement. And I just want to acknowledge all of the kids who applied and had success. And Russell, I don't know what's on the next slide, so you can just... So what I'm going to do is come up front, and I want to acknowledge each of the students and present them with their certificates and their checks. So we are working on a new mic system, so we're doing this today, until we get our new mic system. So the first recipient is Thomas Hurrell. Am I saying that right, Thomas? Thomas, please come forward. Thomas is an 8th grader. And Thomas served in the Table of Plenty for 3 years, volunteers at Mariners Church. He's a patrol leader in the Boy Scouts, and he has ambitious goals of reducing poverty and helping with and homelessness. Thomas is a remarkable young man, and I'm really thrilled. I know there was a chance you wouldn't be able to make it tonight, but I really appreciate that you could, and I want to acknowledge you for that. And keep doing what you're doing. Other 8th graders see what you're doing. 7th graders see what you're doing. 6th graders see what you're doing. And you're probably making a much bigger difference than you realize. So with that, Thomas, I want to present you with the certificate. Thank you. And some cash. Next is Nayeli Acosta. Nayeli, am I saying your name correctly?
Yes.
Please come forward. Nayeli is very active in community events, regularly volunteers at a food bank, and has donated your hair to Locks of Love, which, again, is pretty admirable. And the things I've said to Thomas go to you as well. In your peer group and in your community, people look up to you. Even if you don't realize it, they do, because you're doing something a little bit more and a little bit extra that you don't have to do, which I think is really great. So I want to acknowledge you with a certificate from the city, signed by me, Anthony Cash. Dominic, get up here. So Dominic is so smart that I had to look up the word luthier, which I believe is you make stringed instruments.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. So Dominic wrote a terrific essay, and I did have to look up a few words, which I was pretty impressed by. But he's an athlete, wants to major in engineering, and is interested in setting up community workshops. And Thomas, thank you for what you're doing for yourself and for your community to be a leader. And I want to acknowledge you. Samantha. So now you can see that the dollars are really adding up. Now, Samantha, because you're a junior, a little extra, do something good with it. Samantha is part of the Interact Club, and I think you're beautifying school campuses, part of one of the things you've been doing. Beach cleanups. You tutor at My Lady of the Pillar, and you hope to go into broadcasting and entertainment. That's fantastic. Thank you for what you're doing. And here's an award for you. And let me shake your hand for the picture. So unfortunately, we did not have a winner for the 12th grade award. We had a tie. And we struggled. And Marcia and Steve and I went around in circles. And I would like both Victor and Andrea to come up. Andrea, thank you. Thank you, Victor. Two outstanding high school seniors. Want to acknowledge them both and award them both certificates from the city and a monetary award from the city in the amount of $1,000. Want you to start your college careers off, make a fortune, come back and buy us stuff. So we'll do Andrea first. So I'm sorry, let's go to Andrea. Ladies first. So Andrea volunteers in a summer prevention intervention program. It's on the homecoming committee and part of the Puente. Thank you for everything you're doing. And Victor, Victor's the coach. Your essays were great. It was really great. I'm the counselor at his Bible camp, translates for people in need, and is a food runner at the restaurant to help your family. Really fantastic. Thank you for your leadership. And thank you for your testimony. So before I go around the other side, I really want to, and I made a mistake. This is not like the Miss America mistake. The mistake I made is I neglected to ask Steve and Marcia to come up, and I want Steve Bassich and Marcia Riley to stand up, who were on the selection committee, and we really spent time and thought going through the essays and reviewing them. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll go back around the table. So one last congratulations to our Leadership Award recipients and also to their parents, who I'm sure support them and are here tonight, and their families and friends. So one last final congratulations. Good job, guys. The final item, I guess moving on to Mayor's announcements of community activities. The first thing I want to start with is I want to invite John Colson from Friends of Parks and Recs to come up to the microphone. And John has an announcement, but I'll make a shameless plug. I'm putting this here. Go ahead, John. Okay. Oh, and Eddie Andrina Jr. Sorry.
Well, I'm here tonight because Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Rec came into existence about 5 years ago when the city kind of had a need, and we decided we might as well, pardon me, get into that and help. So, oh, I'm choking a bit. Yeah, do you want to take over a minute?
Okay.
Yeah, I just need some water. Is there an extra glass? Got to get the frog out. All right. Well, maybe it'll go away. Here we go. Here we go.
Give it another try.
All right. Let's give it another try. Sorry about that. It's been a long day. Anyway, I want to thank Ed Andrini serving as our president, and we have Alan Bruce, Dirk Alvarado, Sharzad Ventura, Chris Dobro, George Del Fiero. Everyone stepped up to help the city with parks, to help with funding. We are a 501c3 charity, and donations are totally tax deductible. And with the donations, we've helped with a city park, Yeo Park, where we support that year after year. And also we help with the fountain. And this time around, I'm here to thank you for the skateboard park opportunity and giving the Boys and Girls Club the chance to build something for the youth of our community on the city property. And we've got a $5,000 donation for that skate park from friends. And I encourage anybody here who would like to donate to Parks and Recreation, or if you know somebody who loves parks, we're here. Google search Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Recreation. Can't miss us. And anyway, it's my pleasure to present this check to you.
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to do this.
Okay.
There you go, sir. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. I'll just put that right here. Thank you. And this was a great surprise. So thank you, friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Rec, and thank you for all of your work in our community. I actually brought the skateboard example this evening because my update was I toured the park under construction this evening, and I was going to give an update to the community. And to my surprise and to my delight, we have this very generous gift. So thank you for that. That's fantastic. I will tell you that the skate park is going to be awesome. There have been a few minor tweaks and changes. The orientation shifted a little bit. I did a walkthrough this evening. We're looking at about August 1-ish completion date, launch date for that. It gives me time to practice, so I will be ready with my board. But just so the community knows, the skate park is progressing, and it's going to be pretty cool. The thing that I like most about it is that there is something for everybody. If you get a new skateboard for your birthday, there is an area of the park for you. And if you're doing crazy tricks because you're young and don't know any better, there is a park for you there as well. So something for everybody. The thing I like best about it is there's a signature element, and the element is where you do the tricks, and it is a crescent moon, and we will be the only skate park that has one. So that's really fantastic. So thank you for everybody involved with our skate park work, from Boys and Girls Club and Friends donation and the city staff and the city. Thank you. I now have a few other announcements of upcoming, let's see, what's my agenda? Community activities. And I have a few things going on in our community. Saturday, May 7th is free comic book day at the library. So please get there and get your free comic book. Also, May 7th is the horseshoe tournament at Smithfield. I was told it's a big thing. I've been invited to throw out the first shoe. I'm very excited about that. And then on May 22nd, there's the Hatch School Fiesta, which takes place at Cunha School from 12 to 4. And I believe the Shamarita is coming up also. Is that not coming up? On the... So on the weekend of May 14th and 15th is the Shamarita at the IDES Hall, and all the events going on with that. And this weekend is the first farmers market. Is that correct, John? What time does that start?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. 9 a.m. start, farmers market. At Shoreline Station, thank you. Any other activities to share?
I would just mention that you still have time until midnight, I think, to go online and donate to Silicon Valley Gives. Today, May 3rd, you can make a donation to many organizations in the Bay Area, and anonymous donors typically will match your donation. For instance, we have several local nonprofits like Sonrisas who that you may give to. So I would recommend, every little amount counts as it will be matched. So think about that when you go home this evening. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Now I will turn to the city attorney, ask for a report out from our closed session meetings.
No reportable action this evening.
Thank you, sir. Turn to City Council for City Council reports. Councilmember Penrose.
Yes, I attended the Council of Cities meeting and dinner hosted in Redwood City. Our guest speaker was Warren Slocum, and we had a great presentation of the options being considered by ABAG and MTC in their current proposed merger. I went to the wonderful concert in the park this past Sunday, fabulous music by Latido, and with presentations by Ballet Folklorico Tonzantin and the Mariachi Media Luna. I also met with Councilwoman Marina Frazier and Daniela Sanderson from the city, with both Silicon Valley Foundation and Midtown Housing to discuss what our options are and how much they would like to help us do affordable housing here in Half Moon Bay. Fabulous, fabulous people, and very positive about doing something soon here.
Thank you. Councilmember Muller.
Thank you for reminding everyone that Saturday will be the first farmers market in Half Moon Bay, but tomorrow will be the first one in Pacifica, to our nice neighbors to the north and to our northern area residents here. I also, along with Councilmember Penrose, stopped by the Sonrisas fundraiser last Thursday out at Princeton. Excellent work they do for our community, and there was a nice turnout there. And I also stopped by the concert in the park Sunday, and all the volunteers that work so hard there. All of you deserve a lot of credit for that there. And then I attended a social function with a number of county and city elected officials last week, just on an informal basis. And we had a great discussion about the different ways our cities are trying to handle different situations, and it was quite a nice gathering, just on an informal basis. It wasn't a scheduled meeting by anyone. So that was my week last week. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Frazier.
Thank you. As Councilmember Penrose mentioned, we did attend a couple of meetings to discuss housing opportunities here on the coast side with staff and Silicon Valley Community Foundation in Mid-Penn, and we talked about some future partnerships and opportunities. I also attended a jobs housing task force that concentrated on financing options, and one of the ideas that was generated was asking the county to explore a bond in November to help with housing. So that that theme carried on. It was mentioned again at Council of Cities by Board of Supervisor Chair Warren Slocum that the county may have further discussion on that and explore opportunities within the county for a potential bond. And also attended the Cinco de Mayo Festival at the Plaza, which was wonderful, very colorful, and the children were outstanding in their music and their dancing. It was a delightful afternoon, and I'm glad we didn't have to cancel. This one was the one that didn't have rain. That's wonderful.
Vice Mayor Reddick.
So I attended a Sewer Authority Mid-Coast meeting where we approved a budget for the coming fiscal year to send on to our member agencies. I also attended the Council of Cities dinner with Councilmember Fraser and Councilmember Penrose. I attended the Sonrisas Paella dinner fundraiser and the concerts in the park. So basically ditto to all the various events that have already been discussed tonight. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple things to add on. So yes, I participated in the Sewer Authority meeting where we did send the budget out to the member agencies for approval. So that will be coming to us shortly as a council. Also, in that meeting, I think it was relevant to this, we made a decision as a council to set some expectations around the pursuing the 25% design for recycled water project. And we expressed very clearly that as a council, we support the concept of recycled water on the coast, but we articulated the importance of having a business plan go along with that project so that we will know how the economics of it will all work out. And so the staff at the Sewer Authority believed they had a lot of answers to the questions that we were asking as a council, and so they were going to prepare some responses to those. I also attended the San Mateo County China Trade Association reception, which was a meeting with some county supervisors. So Don Horsley was there and Dave Pine, along with a lot of elected officials from different cities in San Mateo County, networking with the Consulate General and some of their staff from China, as well as entrepreneurs and businesses from China and from U.S. That are really want to understand San Mateo County. And some people said, well, what does Half Moon Bay have to offer? Well, we are not going to have a glut of big businesses coming here, but we certainly can host a really amazing conference at some of our hotel properties. And we have some other opportunities as well. So I made sure that we were represented in that mix. And then I also had a meeting with the Half Moon Bay Latino Advisory Council leaders, and we are preparing to make a presentation to the city in the coming weeks, and I will work with staff to coordinate that meeting. So that's coming up in probably either next meeting or the one thereafter. And that's all I have. Oh, Councilmember Mueller, yes.
Yeah, if I will, I'd like to thank staff too. I forgot to mention the importance of Earth Day and the a container of compost that was given away, and I think it went really well, and staff worked really hard, and I'd like to thank our donor, Republic Services, for providing that, and they provided information to people. So I think whoever got it, that's good stuff.
Great, thank you for mentioning that. To the city manager update.
Just a quick announcement. I wanted to remind the community, for those who may have moved or have yet to register to vote, the deadline for the June election is May 23rd.
Thank you. Moving on to public forum. So if anybody would like to make a comment, please complete one of these blue cards or on the table there, provide it in the tray here, and you may speak up to 3 minutes. So the first person is Dave Shore, followed by Mitch Oster.
Good evening, Dave Shore, 423 St. Joseph here in Half Moon Bay. Thank you, council members, staff, and public. I'm here to discuss the fact that this town and the whole Bay Area region, but our town is what we have local responsibility for, is at a crossing point, at a critical point in choosing whether to continue development, which will increase congestion, or whether to draw a line in the sand. People come here for recreation and live here because of certain features. It's the small town character and the natural features that we all get to appreciate. Both of those are significantly at risk with every bit of incremental development that happens in our town. We are, in fact, being held hostage by decisions that were made decades ago. In the early 60s, there was a study from the state of California that projected 240,000 people on the coast side with 4-lane highways over the hill and up and down the coast. it was that master concept and that mindset that gave rise to the subdivisions and PUDs, which are on our plot maps now, which are now being developed and which are the remnants of an outdated and outmoded and unworkable master plan. We simply can't develop to that extent, but we're going to incrementally move in that direction because that's the way the plans were created. And as a result, we risk losing our small town character and we risk losing our natural resources, particularly the viewshed. Just 2 weekends ago, a nonprofit that I work with canceled an in-person meeting here on the coast on Sunday because none of the participants could make it into town because the congestion was that bad. It not uncommonly now takes 15 minutes to get from Kelly to Kehoe on a weekday night. Forget about the weekends. So in particular, I know the general plan update is happening, but I think we'd be foolish and it'd be irresponsible of us to not make common sense decisions based on individual projects before us now, even before the general plan update is completed. In particular, I'd like to raise the issue of a proposed project of a 150-room hotel down in the Triangle at the south end of town from our friend Greg Jameson, a prominent member of the community. I've spoken with Greg about this, but nonetheless, this is an ill-conceived project that should not be built. This is a 150-room hotel, 300 feet long, 30 to 40 feet tall, which will block a major portion of viewshed. It will generate, at a minimum, 1,000 additional vehicle trips per day at occupancy. If the conference center, which is attached to it, is utilized by the Chamber of Commerce as proposed, that will be an additional 1,000 vehicle trips per day on days the conference center is used. The entrance to the hotel and conference center is directly adjacent to the low-income housing on Main Street, posing an unacceptable risk to the families and their children who live there and play there. We had a woman who spoke at the beginning of the evening about safe routes to school. This project flies in the face of that, both in terms of traffic congestion risk and greenhouse gas and pollution. I will address council at a later date with additional concerns about this. I just want to close by rebutting a statement that the applicant for this project made, which was published in the paper. He said that he believed that this project would reduce traffic congestion. I believe that's like saying the earth is flat. That statement must be taken off of the discussion and just disregarded completely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mitch Oster, please.
Good evening, council members. How are you this evening? My name is Mitchell Oster, and I am the San Mateo County representative for the People for a Clean and Healthy Bay campaign committee, which is supporting Measure AA. Measure AA will appear on the ballot in all 9 Bay Area counties on the June 7th ballot, and I'm urging the council to support this measure with a resolution of support. I believe it's on the calendar this evening. Just a couple of ideas about Measure AA. It would restore wetlands and protect wildlife habitat throughout the Bay Area, primarily in the Bay. I realize we're out in Half Moon Bay, but the Bay also is such an important feature to our economy region-wide, not just out here on the coast, but the entire Bay Area region. And after 100 years of development, diking, filling, we've dramatically reduced our wetlands from over 200,000 acres in a kind of a natural sense to only about 40,000 acres presently. Passing Measure AA to restore our bay will provide urban recreational open space, increase public access to the shoreline, a resource that we all cherish, both out here and on the bay. This extends the Bay Trail and completes gaps within it. Essentially, the bottom line is that voting yes on Measure AA or supporting Measure AA were to pass, it would reduce trash, pollution, harmful toxins inside the bay. It would improve water quality within the bay, restore habitat for fish, birds, and wildlife, protect communities from flooding. It would increase shoreline public access. And I've had a lot of questions in talking to people who live out here on the bay, and they say, well, why should we support this? How could this possibly benefit the coast side, since this is a specifically geared measure for the bay? And the answer is very clear, that we all use the assets that are within the bay community meaning San Francisco International Airport, 101, and a long list of other public infrastructure assets which would be detrimentally affected by flooding, increased sea level rise. And then there's, of course, the impact that the inner bay, that the bay itself, in terms of outflow and silt, has on the entire coastline. It does actually directly impact this community specifically in terms of how, if there is a disturbance to the level of the sea, and as it goes into the bay and it starts to disrupt that, if we're not restoring those areas around the shoreline in the bay, it can have serious impacts out here throughout the entire coastal region. Two final points very quickly. Measure AA is fiscally accountable. It absolutely will be in contradiction to the arguments that were made in the ballot argument. There is strict accountability. And finally, there is the broadest possible support for this throughout the Bay Area. Virtually every member of the state legislature and members of Congress, state senators, everybody at the elected level, throughout the business community, labor groups, environmental groups, a broad coalition of individuals and organizations are supporting this. And I urge the council to support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next item is the consent agenda. Any items to pull, or do I have a motion?
I would move the consent calendar, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, and 1E at this time.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. No discussion. All those in favor respond by saying yes or aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries 5-0. Moving to item 2A. I'll just allow a couple of minutes for the folks to leave. All right, staff ready? Take it away, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. This is a continued hearing on the appeal of a coastal development permit for fire training structure. Let me first say again, this is extremely difficult project. I would say appeals in general are some of the most difficult issues to address, particularly in light of the fact that this was an appeal of a planning commission decision, and the responsibility falls to some extent to support the planning commission and the findings and the recommendations contained within that. That being said, it certainly falls within the council's prerogative to make decisions and choices as they see fit. And with regard to that, we'll proceed to the presentation itself and provide potentially some alternatives for council consideration.
Thank you. And before you go into the meat of the presentation, just let me announce how we will operate this evening. So both the applicant and the appellant will have up to 10 minutes to speak this evening. If you wish to reserve some of your time to make a response, you may do that, but we will be limited each to 10 minutes. Thank you, John. Please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Carol Hamilton with the Community Development Department. I wanted to point out to you that we provided a memorandum at your seat this evening that transmits a revision to condition E1 of the draft conditions of approval. This revision clarifies that the permit would become effective after expiration of the Coastal Commission appeal period. This item was last considered by the City Council on March 1st of this year. At that meeting, staff made a presentation that included detailed responses to each of the appellant's contentions. The appellant, applicant, and public spoke to the appeal, and the hearing was closed. The City Council then voted unanimously to continue the item to allow the applicant to consider refinements to the project, addressing visual compatibility concerns and the findings for design review. The appellant contends that the project does not protect views of the inland hills and does not conform to visual resource standards, that the project is not consistent with the design review criteria and findings of the municipal code, it is not consistent with the gateway policies of the downtown specific plan, and that it is not in compliance with CEQA. It further identifies that the project violates the purpose statement of the zoning code, that it violates an upland slope visual resource standard, which states that structures shall be sited so that they do not intrude above the ridge line when they're viewed from Highway 1. And because the project is located adjacent to a PUD just across Main Street, and that PUD is a visual resource area, the appellant contends that all visual resource standards apply to this project, including the upland slope standards, not just those applicable to the PUD. On March 1st, staff provided an extensive response to the appeal. One contention continues to generate considerable discussion, and that's that the project violates visual resource standards for upland slopes, in that the structure extends above the ridgeline when viewed from Highway 1. Staff, including the City Attorney's Office, concludes that the provisions are not applicable to this project. Visual compatibility is a factor that can be considered, however, by the City Council in considering the required design review findings for the project. Since the March 1st hearing, the Coastside Fire Protection District has submitted revised plans that are intended to address the direction from the City Council. The revised plans reduce the height of the tower and provide revised elevations with alternative colors and materials. Staff is recommending the brick alternative, but is asking that the council provide direction regarding which design alternative is the preferred. The revised project includes no changes to the training tower footprint. It remains the same size, and the site plan does not change. The height of the structure, however, does change. This slide shows the previous design with the revised design side by side. The height is reduced from 50.5 feet, which would actually in the previous conditions of approval was a condition that required the design to be reduced to 50 feet. So this is basically a 5-foot reduction. And on the right, you see the revised design. The highest point of the structure is the railing for the stairwell. The height of the structure is 45 feet. However, the revised design also removes the parapet that you can see on the left side of the screen and replaces it with an open railing. And this change reduces the height of the solid portion of the structure, which has the most effect on the visibility and the views, to 40.5 feet. The applicant has shown two different alternatives for the exterior materials and colors. This is what we call the red brick alternative, and it is the one that staff is recommending. It includes a facade facing Main Street that has a muted red brick material. The rest of the sides of the building are metal clapboard siding that's painted tan, and the trim is dark brown. This is a view, a rendering of the brick alternative from Main Street, and this is a view of the same alternative from Highway 1. The second alternative is what we're calling the tricolor alternative. The material is entirely metal clapboard siding. It has a mostly cream base, the first 2 floors, and the upper 2 floors are painted teal with tan trim. This is a rendering of this alternative from Main Street, to give you an idea of how it looks from a distance. So in summary, the revised proposal reduces the overall height by 5 feet. It increases the transparency at the top of the structure by replacing the parapet with open railing, and it improves the architectural detailing. So in conclusion, the revisions of the project the applicant has made in response to the City Council. The proposed project revisions reduce visibility from Highway 1. They improve visual compatibility and strengthen the evidence supporting the design review findings. Staff believes that this project, as revised, is consistent with the zoning code, with all applicable policies and development standards of the local coastal program, with the architectural review findings that are required in the municipal code, and with the requirements of CEQA. The conditions have been revised in light of the City Council comments on March 1st. Condition A1 incorporates the revised plans. Condition D8 specifies building materials in conformance with the red brick alternative. Condition A5 precludes training activities on any state of California or federal holiday. Condition A5E requires the permittee to maintain the fire training structure in good condition so that if after use, if it needs to be cleaned up or repaired, that is required after each use. As designed and conditioned, staff believes that the project is consistent with the use and development standards of the PS zoning district, that it's consistent with the visual resource protection provisions and other requirements of the local coastal program and the zoning code, that it's consistent with the architectural design criteria and findings of the zoning code, and it's reasonably compatible with adjacent development and consistent with the requirements of the Environmental Quality Act. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the appeal. Staff is recommending that the council deny the appeal and approve the fire training tower based on the findings and conditions contained in the resolution. Staff has also provided some alternative actions here in case the council would like to deny or approve the appeal and deny the project. The first alternative would be to continue the item to allow staff to prepare written findings for the approval of the appeal and the denial of the project. The second provides for a decision this evening for approval of the appeal and denial, and if that is the choice that the council makes, staff would request that the council be very clear and identify the basis of the action so that staff can prepare the findings following the hearing. This concludes staff presentation.
Thank you very much for that report and reminder of our previous discussions. Are there any questions from council for staff before we hear from the applicant and the appellant? Questions, please.
So we know the elevation, the uppermost elevation of the structure. What is the width? You know, from a street view, how wide is it? And how wide is the portion of the tower? So that when you're looking at it square from Main Street, How wide is the uppermost portion and how wide is the entire
And
horizontal footprint?
Can we please flip to the slide that shows the rendering while we have this discussion? Thank you.
The structure appears to be, the width parallel to Main Street is 73 feet. And I do not have a definition, a dimension for the depth, but it appears to be approximately 25 to 30 feet. The upper floor of the tower is 550 square feet, the top floor in area.
But how wide is it parallel to Main Street, the upper portion?
Sorry. The upper deck is 23 and a half feet wide. It appears to be square, approximately.
And so how high is the central deck where you have, railings? Minus the railing, yeah. How wide is that? More importantly, how tall is it? How tall is that middle section?
But take your time. No, you're just because everybody's watching is no pressure. Take your time.
Do you at least have the middle deck elevation?
It appears, appears to be 21 feet.
10 feet wide?
Actually, it's 28 feet to the top of the rail for that lower deck.
For that point there.
Yeah.
That's helpful, thank you.
Other questions or comments from council before we hear from the applicant? So with that, the applicant and the appellant have 10 minutes, up to 10 minutes each, and you may reserve up to 3 minutes of that time for a rebuttal. Would you like the timer set at 10 minutes or at 7 minutes?
No, because I'm going to take 30 seconds.
Okay.
Actually, I'm...
Okay, then I will ask that we set the timer to 7 minutes, please.
I'm only going to speak very briefly before I have to go. When you're all ready, when you're listening.
I'm sorry, one moment, please. I'm getting some...
Just a clarification, are you representing the... I appreciate that, but this is the appropriate time for the applicant's representative to speak. And so if you're going to be the only person, we're just trying to determine what your role is here, because usually the last time he spoke, so.
I wanted to speak for about 30 seconds because I was just going to set the table.
So I would ask President Burke, please approach the microphone, and you guys have 7 minutes collectively to say what you need to say. Thank you.
All I wanted to say was that, Dr. Penrose, you know the Hippocratic Oath, and that is to do no harm. Our firefighters are in the business of saving lives. Since we have all this traffic on Highway 1 and all these motels, hotels, and seasonal events, we have about 35 people on the coast side, and we're trying to save lives because there's probably, and the reason why we're doing this is because training is so important to saving lives. It's really surprises me that this even got to this point. Thank you.
Mr.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Gary Burke, and I'm the president of the Coastside Fire Prevention District. Over 1 year ago, the Fire District Board, after considerable analysis, meeting with experts, CAL FIRE and others, voted to fund and build a training facility similar but unique to this community and used by thousands of other fire facilities, modern fire facilities throughout the United States. It provides our first responder training in order to improve the ability to protect and save the lives of coastside residents, firefighters, which of course is our mission. In pursuing this effort, we took no shortcuts. We held public meetings, noticed our neighbors, completed a mitigated negative environmental declaration, designed the facility to meet city codes for height, setback, and agreed to city conditions for operations. The location of this facility was selected in 1998 when our site for the fire station on Main Street was purchased, the station built with the intent of adding a training facility in our public service zone. After 2 planning committee meetings and with a supporting staff report, the planning committee voted to approve our facility. The subsequent appeal to the council in March by, quote, Citizens for Preserving Rural Half Moon Bay contained 11 grounds for the appeal, each of which was rejected by your staff report on March 1st, stating, in part, the project is consistent with the zoning code, all applicable policies and development standards of the LCP and the architectural review finding of city code. The staff recommendation was to deny the appeal and approve the PDP. Citizen support for this facility has been exceptional, with letters and support from testimony from literally dozens of city businesses, individuals, chambers of commerce, Kenyatta Cove, senior centers, Ritz-Carlton, and on and on. As noted in tonight's packet, the Coastside Fire Protection District has agreed to changes in our facilities, some expensive and some that seem unnecessary. Tonight's staff report states that while the original project was found consistent with the zoning code, the LCP, the revised proposal brings the project into further consistency and recommends council deny the appeal, uphold the Planning Commission decision, and approve our PDP. One of the primary duties of all governments at all levels is to protect our citizens. Witness the Half Moon Bay City Emergency Operations Center. This fire district facility will ensure better safety and protection, save lives for all coastside residents and first responders. We have done our part. We now ask your support, that you support your staff recommendation and approve PDP 15-046. And I'll now ask Chief Cole if he would be available to answer any questions you might have as well. Chief Cole, or if you have questions.
Are there any questions at this time? Oh, we have a question, Chief Cole.
Chief.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. On the revised design with the reduction of the elevation, are we still able to receive the proper training for the structures we have here on the coast side?
Thank you, sir. That was an issue that we and my staff gave a lot of thought to. So we looked at and heard the comments from the council and from the appellants as well. Took that back and looked at, is there a way to revise this, hearing some of those comments, without adversely affecting the operational parameters by which we need to work within, and training being the top of that. So the top section of the tower was designed specifically for a very skill set that we need to train our firefighters, advanced rope work, some advanced ladder work, and ventilation. As a result of that compromise that we did with the revised renderings, however, we've realized that we're going to have to incorporate another training prop, if you will, somewhere else on the site. It's not a tower, so to speak. It's not even a structure or a facility. It's something that will allow us to put firefighters up at elevation, ascending, rappelling, and so forth. However, there's a cost with that, and there's a planning process that needs to be vetted with the board. So In the long term, I hope we can address it that way. The change in the tower itself, we can make up operationally somewhere else. In the short term, it will affect it, but in the short term, we're willing to take that and be able to move forward with that concession.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Mr. Lansing here? Mr. Lansing not here. I have a, excuse me, you representing the appellant? All right, I have a letter from Mr. Lansing for the council. I'm presuming this is the letter for the council. Is that correct? I received I have 5 letters. Okay. Sir, would you like 7 minutes or 10 minutes? Please set the timer at 7 minutes. Thank you, sir.
As Mr. Lansing is away, he asked that I read his letter to you into the record. Dear Mayor Kowalski and Kowalczyk and members of the council, on behalf of the applicant's Citizens for the Preserving Rural Half Moon Bay, I would like to submit the following comments on the proposed redesign for the fire training tower, PDP 15-046. Due to work-related travel, I cannot attend the public hearing on May 3rd, 2016. 1. The proposed redesign for the tower is still too tall. Item: the fire district has proposed a redesigned tower that is 45 feet tall, only 5 feet lower than the original design. The redesigned tower would still project above the ridgeline, or the skyline, as seen from Highway 1, thus violating Half Moon Bay Zoning Code Section 18.37.035C. Item: the photo in attachment 1 to this letter shows that a further height reduction to approximately 35 feet is needed to comply with HMB Zoning Code Section 18.37.035C. Item: attachment 2 shows that 35 feet prefabricated training towers are available from Fire Facilities, Inc. These alternative designs were not considered because the fire district failed, I'm repeating it, failed to prepare a full environmental impact report for this project. Item: the fire district should have installed story poles for the redesigned tower. Although the tower itself is not located in a visual resource area, it is located adjacent to a planned unit development that is within a visual resource area. Therefore, the tower itself is subject to the visual resource policies and HMB Zoning Code, Chapter 18.37. Number 2, the project still violates numerous HMB planning policies. Item: quote, the hillside along the city's eastern boundary is a major attribute of the city's setting. Coordinated county and city measures to protect the scenic quality of these hillsides are necessary. End of quote. LUP Chapter 7. Item, again a quote, structures shall be subordinate in appearance to the natural landform, shall be designed to follow the natural contours of the landscape, and shall be sited so as not to intrude into the skyline as seen from public viewing places. End of quote. LUP Policy 7-10. Item, another quote. Conserve and enhance important visual resources within the city, including views of the inland hillsides at the eastern edge of the city. End of quote. 18.01.010G. Item, quote, allow development only when it is visually compatible with the character of the surrounding area, end of quote. That's 18.37.010E. Item, again a quote, the proposed development shall be compatible in terms of height, bulk, and design with other structures and environment in the immediate area, end of quote. That's 14.37.035G. At 45 feet, the redesigned tower would still be 18 feet taller than the theater and 10 feet taller than the fire station. Item, quote, buildings shall be so designed and constructed that they will not be of unsightly or obnoxious appearance. End of quote. That's 14.37.040A. Item, again a quote, enhance the visual appeal of the principal gateways into the downtown area. End of quote. Downtown specific plan 4.311. Item, again a quote. The scenic and visual qualities of coastal areas shall be considered and protected as a resource of public importance. End of quote. That's 18.37.010A of the Coastal Act. 3025. Sincerely, Kevin J. Lansing, on behalf of Citizens for Preserving Rural Half Moon Bay. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Any questions from council? No questions? Let's see, I'm going to open the public hearing. I've got 9 cards. We typically allow 3 minutes to speak at the discretion of the council, given the number of cards. Is there any consideration to reduce that to 2, or shall we continue with 3 as typical? 3's fine. Okay, so if you have comments to share from the blue card, you have 3 minutes to speak. If you're repeating something that was already said, we would just appreciate if you acknowledge that in your comments. I'm going to open the public hearing, and the first speaker is Dave Shore.
Good evening, council, staff, and members of the public. Dave Shore, 423 St. Joseph Avenue. Purpose of my speaking tonight is enter into the record comments related to this project, which will form the basis of a legal appeal to the Coastal Commission should the City Council approve the project this evening or at a future date. I do have to wonder, should the project be appealed, there are permit conditions, but there's no mention of penalties for violations of permit conditions. And not that I'm accusing the fire department of intending to breach permit conditions, but you have something on paper. There should be a consequence if activities are not congruent with them. The council has discretion, as was pointed out by Carol Hamilton, to uphold the appeal of this project based on visual characteristics, aesthetics, and similar words being used to that effect. In particular, Kevin's letter mentioned words in the code of unsightly and obnoxious appearance. I think that's significant. Like Rick, I recently did a whole bunch of travel and flew through an airport where there was a 35-foot version of this training tower adjacent to the runway, industrial area. One thing that does not come out in any of these renderings is the fact that these buildings are festooned with railings, railways, walkways, parapets, staircases. No matter what you do with the tan, red, or green, or teal color of the side of the building, these walkways are all industrial galvanized stuff just bolted onto the outside of this thing. I tell you, the structure is just ugly beyond belief. Unsightly and obnoxious doesn't even come close to telling you what these things really look like, even if you keep the soot off them. It's an industrial structure. It does not enhance the visual characteristics of the gateway to our town. It does not enhance the visual characteristics of the backdrop of the hillsides. I would also point out that even Kevin's very finely detailed letter does not take full advantage of the geometry of the situation. His photo on this page shows a 35-foot height being compatible with ridgeline preservation. But that was taken from the southbound side of Highway 1. If you move to the northbound side of Highway 1 and take the exact same photo, you've got a 30-foot height restriction before you pop above the skyline. Similarly, the photo taken on page 6 of the city's presentation continues to somewhat game the situation by showing the rendering of the building against a high point of the ridgeline, where the 45-foot tower, photo 1, page 6, does not protrude above the high point of the ridgeline. But again, if you move just a little bit further south and move to the northbound lane and look towards the hills, it does block the views. So I think we must use a very conservative principle in looking at potential violations of code and aesthetic values, because that is the primary issue in play here. Nobody's disputing that we want a fire department that's well-trained and capable. I'm assuming we have that now. But again, these buildings are festooned with industrial galvanized hangings that significantly detract from what the renderings show here. Just before the meeting, I did email my photos from that trip to council, or rather to John and to Alex, but I didn't have time to print them out. I will submit them later. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have cards from Gary Burke and Ginny McShane. Are you satisfied with your comments? You submitted blue cards for this item. I'm assuming that you've made your comments. Yes. Thank you. Next speaker is Jules Sofer, followed by Steve Stockman.
Speaking just for myself now and not representing anybody, Half Moon Bay had the most beautiful signature Monterey cypress at its eastern gateway. We did not do well by that cypress. We cut it down so we could widen the road. The same situation when it came up at Lake Tahoe in Tahoe City. Tahoe City was a little more sensitive to the situation. They went around the tree, and so they have the tree in the center as an island with traffic going around it. I'm hopeful that we're not going to repeat what we did to one of our gateways tonight on this gateway, because this gateway is for people coming up from Santa Cruz along a 50-mile stretch, which is one of the most beautiful stretches of the California coast. And the first thing they're going to see when they hit Half Moon Bay, if this goes up, is the tower. That would be unfortunate. And I'd just like to leave everybody here in this room with one thought. I don't think that there's a single person, I'm sure there isn't a single person in this room who doesn't want to see the fire department have that 50-foot tower. If it's what they say they need for training, they should have it. And we're all in favor of them having it. The trouble is that because of the way this was jacked around, it's now in a place where it shouldn't be. There are plenty of places on the coast side. There are plenty of places all over this area where you could put a 50-foot tower and it would not disturb anybody. But those were never explored because they didn't want to go through CEQA. Thank you. That's had my say.
Thank you, sir. Steve Stockman, followed by John Ullum.
Well, I'd like to begin by saying if I start coughing for a while, like John Cobbleson, will somebody bring me a beer? You know. So I'm asking the council to deny the appeal of the fire training structure. I commend Chief Cole and the fire board for their effort to bring a really compromising solution for all the points that were brought up earlier. I find it a little hilarious to hear Mr. Shore talk about the safety of when we talked about the hotel in the triangle spot, to even speak about what's safe for all the community without denying, at the same time denying the importance of this structure and the trust in the board and staff on doing what's best for all the citizens. So, and I also find it hilarious that of all the scrutiny that this project's been under, that the council will soon face a project that's going to block the view that's blocking the view. So I hope that you'll do what's best for all the citizens on the coast. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Ullum, followed by David Ablovi.
John Ullum, Half Moon Bay. I'm asking that the council deny the appeal. I think that the training prop is probably a really vital addition to the training of our fire crews over here. I think it's important that they know that we want their careers to advance and that they need to have these kind of skill sets if they're going to go someplace else or move up the chain in CAL FIRE or wherever they move on in their careers. So I find it difficult, though, to support the training prop because of I'm really mystified by the callous disregard that some people have for the beauty that we all want to preserve. I mean, this place doesn't look like Pacifica for a reason. And it's not because everybody got along and did so we need this and that and we turned into Pacifica. It's because people fought to preserve it. And so we made a lot of good choices. This place is pretty dang special. There isn't nothing else like it. So when the people who support the fire training prop talk in terms, try to use emotional arguments, like, lives are at stake here, I think you can make a technical argument that's true, but you should be aware that the fire department has never, ever pursued this type of training at facilities that are available on the other side of the hill. So if this was that vital to the safety of the firefighters and all of us, then we really have to ask ourselves, have we been let down over the last few years because this hasn't been addressed in a way that would have mitigated any danger that's being caused by this? With that being said, the training prop is a great idea. It's cheap. I mean, it costs nothing compared to what it would cost the department to send crews over the hill to obtain that training. So you can make a really good financial case for it. And I also think that, we do want to preserve the beauty here. Some projects are going to be compromised on differently than other projects. For example, the hotel that's been suggested, that's a money-making operation, and it's not in the same category as a training prop that's meant to enhance people's skills when it comes to saving our lives, saving their lives, protecting themselves. So obviously, the way I would weight it, and I know you guys are down to, does it look good enough or not, I would say that on the whole, that this project deserves to be considered more favorably and less stringently than, say, a project like a hotel or a conference center or something like that. And I think that's the last of it. Oh, the brick is the worst idea, though. The absolute worst idea. We live in, what will happen the first time it shakes? Won't it just fall off? I mean, thanks.
Thank you. David Oblovi, followed by Pam Fisher.
Good evening. Well, Mayor, I finally found something that you and I share in common. Listening to Mr. Sofer mispronounce your name. We're both about the same age, and I think for about the same amount of time, we've listened to our name get butchered in more ways than we can count. I wasn't actually going to speak to this issue tonight, but the way the appeal is being pursued, I'm not speaking to the viability or whether the tower should be there or not specifically. Rather, I'd like you to look at bifurcating the appeal with the approval or rejection of the tower. The appeal was effectively upheld when you decided at the previous meeting that the tower as proposed was not acceptable. They were appealing that tower. That tower is off the table now, at least that's my understanding. So if that tower is off the table, then the appeal has been upheld. And I think you can approve the project if that's your intention or that's what you choose to do without necessarily denying the appeal. We're focusing on appeal or approve, deny. And I think that we should also reflect on something here. This is the first time in our community where I have seen a contentious project where there are very passionate people on both sides of the equation, none of whom are going to be happy with the outcome tonight. No matter what you vote, they are going to be very unhappy. But they managed to forge a compromise. We have actually seen a compromise forged without personal attacks, without denigrating the opponent. We've seen a public discourse that's been respectful and proper, and as a result, we have an outcome that is going to work, or could work. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved for making this a productive process. They say that in negotiation, the best negotiation is when both parties go away angry at each other or unsatisfied, and I'm guessing that's how this is going to play out. But most importantly, I think we should reflect on this as a community. We can do stuff like this. It doesn't have to be you're against us or you're for us. We can work together to forge a common ground. And that's actually what's happened here. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam Fisher, our final speaker on this topic.
Good evening. I would like to concur with John Elam about, sorry, Rick, nothing is brick here for a reason. We live in an earthquake zone. I understand it's just a facade. However, it doesn't fit with the surrounding properties. Aesthetics are personal issues, but I would like to at least make that point and to respectfully question Mr. Dowdy's contention that this board has an obligation to uphold the Planning Commission's decision, especially since this was a split decision by the Planning Commission. 2 of the members voted to turn this project down. The other issue that I personally have a problem with is the process. And as Vice Chair Ruddock mentioned last week, CEQA was skirted. Had CEQA not been skirted, a master EIR would have been performed and would have identified the difficulties with this proposed tower in terms of the LCP or the LUP or whatever else was in Kevin's letter. I took advantage of the time that I've had recuperating to review all of the fire board meetings this year. I can say that it was a rare occurrence when anybody said fire tower. We had training facility. We had fire prop. It wasn't until the Planning Commission demanded that those poles go up, the story poles go up, which is your prerogative to demand. And basically, the issue still is, where would 45 feet, this 5-foot drop, take it? From what Kevin had proposed, that 35 feet would have been a maximum. But again, my contention is, had CEQA not been skirted, as had been identified correctly by Vice Chair Ruddock, this issue would not be here before you. The bottom line is, no other site was examined. This was a 20-year, almost 20-year-old vision plan. Things have changed in 20 years. They were under an obligation to follow CEQA. not to segment this project, to do it the right way so that we didn't end up in this position. So I encourage you to vote to uphold. Well, I agree with David. You did uphold the appeal last month, or 2 months ago, whatever. And this project should not be a 45-foot structure at the entry, nor should it be in brick. It needs to fit the architecture of the surrounding community. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will close the public hearing, and I will invite the applicant from the Coastside Fire Protection District if you would like to rebut any of those comments made. No. I do have a couple questions. Are there questions from the council? So I do have a question for Chief Cole. Chief Cole, there were some comments this evening regarding training and that the firefighters have never gone over the hill for training. I'd like you to respond to that regarding the types of training that are done here and over the hill, how often, that kind of thing. Just give us a little commentary on that.
There are similar facilities in size and scope like this scattered throughout the county, ranging from built in the 1960s to I think later part of the early 2000s. The issue with not being able to go is really an issue of operational capability. In order for us to take advantage of those rare opportunities that come up in those facilities would be to move those resources assigned here over the hill to participate in the training, leaving the response force vacant. So if I was to send an engine company over there, it would only leave me with 2 engines on the coast, and that is an operational service level we will not consider. Further, some of the facilities out there are dedicated for their agency training specifically. South San Francisco. South San Francisco primarily uses it for just their agency, and they are now their neighbor right to the north of them. Menlo Park's facility really doesn't have this. There's no other structure currently modern out in the county other than the South San Francisco model that is out there. So we have gone to Menlo Park to participate in some training, but that was done basically on a 1 and 2 engine basis. It wasn't my full organization. We were able to move engines between San Mateo County Fire, which we manage as well, CAL FIRE contract, and Coastside Fire, to be able to kind of move an engine over there to watch some new techniques on fire behavior at their live fire simulator and then bring those folks back. So it is rather difficult, and we will not compromise on the service level. We maintain, because we're the furthest resource. Help takes 20 minutes to get here. I cannot send 1 or 2 of my engine companies leaving one here. It's just the service level the board and staff, frankly, will not accept.
Thank you. And just regarding training in general, not just tower training, but overall training, are there requirements for the number of hours or the types of training? Could you also give me some background on that,
as you know,
please?
ISO has the different categories that say, with each of these categories for the insurance service rating that you get, are you a 12 and are you a 6, that says you must perform X amount of hours in structural support training, in EMS training, in hose evolution training. In fact, in the ISO document itself, you get points, and the more points you gather, obviously, the better rating you get, which translates to better insurance rates to the customers, that if you have a 4-story tower, that works in your favor being able to do that. So we comply, our training division complies with those mandates as well as additional mandates that are out there for training.
Thank you. And I'm not sure I'm sorry to surprise you with this question, but I'm not sure you know the answer. But what is the height of the tallest building in Half Moon Bay? I'm assuming it would be the Ritz-Carlton.
It is, and it's approximately, you're pushing close to 70 feet on that west elevation. If you go behind where the public by the golf course looks out at the ocean, we have access that when the Ritz went in, they need to provide an access that would allow our fire truck and ladder truck to be able to get there to extend its ladder out to meet the upper stories of that elevation. It's deceptive. When you look on the front side of the Ritz, it may look like a 3 or 4 structure. It's not. On the back side of it, you have that increased elevation.
At 70 feet.
Close to 70, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions. Are there any other questions for Chief Cole? Councilmember Penrose.
Yes, I wonder if you did look at the 35-foot option?
No, ma'am, not at all. Because it doesn't fit our threat. When you look at the Ritz-Carlton in particular, and you look at the layout of that structure and the height of that structure, I needed something with the original design. I had to meet that advanced structure fire operations stairwell laddering. 35 foot does not represent the current buildings that are going in currently, even in Half Moon Bay. So 35 feet will not work for us.
And a 40 feet will work for the Ritz?
No, ma'am, it will not. Forgive me. When I met with the city, we knew what the height limitation was, and the ordinance was 50 feet. And the question was, would we seek a variance? We didn't want to go down that path. We said, okay, what can I do at 50 feet? Can I replicate as close as possible that 70 feet? Yeah, we thought the original design would allow us to meet that intent. So I didn't want to put in a 70-foot structure, knowing that trying to do that and getting a variance passed would be very extremely difficult, and we didn't want to go there.
And are you saying then that the revised design of 40 feet will not meet your needs?
Short term, ma'am, we're going to have to make some compromises. I'm going to have to come out, forgive me, this keeps shutting off on me, with an additional prop that will allow me to work with some of my advanced rope work at height. And what we're kind of talking about is it's an SST steel type lattice structure that's bolted on to the top of the concrete, and firefighters ascend up, rappel off, our ladder truck will go up. And again, nothing there would even come close to exceeding 50 feet. That's always the limit for us in this entire design.
But that will be adequate.
We will make that work. With the compromise that we did, we're going to have to adjust our training philosophy a little bit and come up with an additional cost. The brick element is close to $85,000. That structure I just referenced is another $49,000 to $50,000. So the compromise does not come without additional resources, public resources being have to use to be able to facilitate that.
Thank you. One more question. You said that it's not going to work to have our firefighters go over the hill for their training. However, I thought part of the proposed plan was to have other firefighters from the rest of the county come to Half Moon Bay for their training.
No, ma'am. The one agency that was going to participate and partner with us was our other CAL FIRE contract. That's San Mateo County Fire. All of their employees are the same state employees. We essentially are one agency with two different contracts. Because those folks participate with our combined training division, what you would see is the same 3 engines that were here would train in the morning. Those engines would move over the coast, and San Mateo County Fire engines would come into the coast to cover and participate in the training. So it would not be multiple agencies, it would just be the San Mateo County Fire Agency. But again, no more than 3 engines at any one time on the training ground participating in that training.
And the training will go on during the weekend as well?
Yes, ma'am, I'm obligated to do that. Our firefighters work different shifts through the week. I have firefighters that work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. In addition, we have volunteers that work Monday through Friday, and their only training obligation that they can meet is on a weekend day.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mueller.
Yep, thank you. I think the first thing we got to clarify with...
Councilmember, do you have questions for Chief Cole or just general comments?
No, I'd like to bring it back.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Chief Cole. Bring it back. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I think there's a couple quick points, I think, with our legal staff. The first one is I understood at the previous meeting, because they're talking about, well, the appeal, and mumble jumble there a little bit. It was a continuance, and I think that's the key word there. Is that correct, very briefly on that one? And then I have another.
That is correct. At the last council meeting, this council voted to continue the item with instructions to the applicant to make modifications.
Good. And then the other one is then it looked like, again, with the appellate's comments there, that we were breaking all of our policies or gray areas, and we count on you to give us our legal advice. It seems like we are legally able to move this project forward if we desired to, without breaking.
Apologies for jumping in a little soon. The answer is the same as it was the last time, which is yes, this council can approve this project. This council could alternatively deny this project, and the council could continue this project again for a third time with further instructions or modifications requested. Those are all options available to the council to make tonight.
Satisfied, John? Vice Mayor?
No.
No comments? Councilmember Frazier?
I think a lot of my questions have been answered that council has asked upon this, and I made the majority of my comments at the last meeting.
At this time, I would like to recommend staff's recommendation and make a motion that find that the City Council has reviewed and considered the final initiative study and mitigated negative declaration for the project adopted by the lead agency, quote, the Coastside Fire Protection District, deny the appeal, affirm the Planning Commission's decisions to approve the project, and approve PDP-15-046 application for a coastal development permit and architectural review for the construction of a prefabricated fire training tower of approximately 45 feet in height and 4,497 square feet in floor area as redesigned on an 86,463 square foot lot developed with an existing fire station and fire training yard located at 1191 Main Street in the PS Public Service Zoning District based upon the findings and evidence contained in Exhibit A and B of the resolution and subject to the conditions of the approval contained in Exhibit C.
We have a motion for clarity, Councilmember. Are you stating your motion to deny the appeal and approve the project with the amendments recommended by staff?
That is correct.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Is that the resolution that is attached to the staff report?
Correct.
I'll second the motion.
I want to clarify that. So the Vice Mayor's question is that the resolution attached to the staff report? Is that in fact correct? I understand the motion is to deny the appeal to approve the project with the modifications presented by staff this evening. Staff, is that correct? That is in the resolution.
There was no change to the resolution. There was a recommendation for modification of the condition relative to the coastal appeal ability, but that was a condition of approval.
So will the resolution need to be amended if this should?
No.
So, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Additional discussion. Vice Mayor?
Yep. I just, if I may, Mayor, a comment. I want everybody to understand that we're talking over 3 pounds of paperwork that everyone has worked very hard on, and I weighed it personally Sunday. And my other comment is I would hope, and I sure think we should be very grateful that our first responders don't take this much time to get to a call as we have taken for this fire training tower. So I'm hoping the council sees fit to agree with my motion.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other? Oh, sorry. City Attorney, please.
Just trying to make sure that we have a crystal clear record as best we can here. Our understanding is the motion was to deny the appeal, approve the project as modified, indicated in the agenda with the attached exhibits there, but also with the additional change referring to the appealability of the project. Is that correct?
Describe the additional change of the appealability of the project.
Exhibit C, subsection E1, effective date, would be modified to refer to the fact that the project is a major public works project appealable to the Coastal Commission. It was incorporated this afternoon. Therefore, that language does not appear in what's been distributed this evening, is my understanding. So if that is a requested change tonight, You can move the staff recommendation with the additional modification as shown here, and that would be clarity for staff.
I understand. I don't like to be hung out to dry like this. But I think we did get an email, if I'm not mistaken, from Coastal Commission also today. Is that correct?
Let me, John, go ahead.
We received an email from Nancy Cave, yes.
So I guess what I'm asking is then, as you just stated, it still can be appealable to the Coastal Commission in this motion, correct?
Nothing that we do this evening will affect the appealability of this project. The law is clear. We can't affect that. But what we can do is indicate in our conditions that fact, which was not indicated previously. And that's been, I think, requested and shown on the attachment that you have in front of you. It's always been the case. It's not really anything new. It's just an express call out that wasn't made earlier.
So on the agenda, you read the full paragraph of the recommendation. An item that is sitting here at our desk right now has revised condition of approval for the fire training tower, and the revision is to condition E.1, clarifying that the permit would become effective after the expiration of the Coastal Commission appeal period. So that would be like an extra sentence that would have been on that recommendation that John had read. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Understood. We have a motion and a second. We have discussion. John, you have any additional points?
I guess it's a little over the 3.31 pounds then with that extra paper on there.
Councilmember Penrose, any comments to make? No. Councilmember Frazier, Vice Mayor.
In the email received from the Coastal Commission, they're clearly concerned about the building projecting over the eastern ridge line. So I know there's been some statements from staff saying that that's not necessarily an issue. We now know from the Coastal Commission it is. The Coastal Commission has indicated that based on the visualization supplied by Chief Cole, that it looks like they could be okay with that. I asked myself, I think from Kevin Lansing, the appellant's visualization, it looks like in one place the tower would project over the skyline. From another angle, it would not. And I'm thinking that maybe it's not enough of an issue to have the Coastal Commission, for instance, find substantial issue with the project and hear it at the Coastal Commission level. And the reason I think that is because the actual tower that would project above the skyline is only about 23 feet wide. The rest of the building is 28 feet high or less. So most of the building, the vast two-thirds of it, is not going to project over the skyline. So for much of your trip down Highway 1 or up Highway 1, it's not going to be visible above the skyline. It may at one or two points, but in general, I'm thinking not. Therefore, I don't think there's a substantial issue there for the Coastal Commission. I think they're going to look at how much of the building protrudes above the skyline and for how much of the trip up and down Highway 1. I have a difficult time, having been a coastal commissioner myself, that staff and the requisite two commissioners who would appeal could find substantial issue. So it might be just a useless exercise. I think there's a reasonable chance that it would be a useless exercise to appeal. So a couple of speakers said that they thought we had a good compromise here. I have to say that personally I'm not thrilled. I think it's not a good location for a fire tower at our southern gateway. I don't think it's as much of an issue now as it was previously. It would be nice if it were screened more by trees, but that's additional cost. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm probably going to vote with Councilmember Muller here on this issue because of the compromise. I do want to say, though, that I maintain my position that this was not handled well from the beginning. I don't think the fire district did right by the California Environmental Quality Act, which is the law of the land here. And I think when and we heard Chief Cole or Gary Burke say that it was their intention right from the start to have this training facility, and yet they did not incorporate planning for this project in their CEQA document. You know, that's a big mistake. That shows kind of a cavalier attitude toward the law. I do think that the fire district's willingness to work with the city and the commission on this is good. So I'm feeling better about it. But I would like to suggest that the fire district in the future pay very close attention to land use planning laws in the city and the state and change the way they do things. Nobody here is above the law, is basically what I'm saying. So I also think that the city needs to manage its appeal process in a more clear way, both for the council members and the public. I think it was not clear at the first meeting what the appeal process was for the council members. I saw the video, people were struggling. There was no clear direction from staff. I think we need to do a better job next time, and I've had a conversation with staff about that. So everybody needs to do a better job next time, and it seems that we have that intent, and that feels good to me. So I'm going to be voting yes in favor of the revised project tonight.
Thank you. I have some comments, and first of all, I echo your comments about the approach to the project. I also, however, I'm in support of this as the direction going, but I do have some related questions for the city attorney about the zoning code and the hilltop. But by the way, I do appreciate the math on the width of the building above the ridge line from Highway 1. That's very helpful. So thank you for that. It was a good analysis. So to the city attorney, if I am driving down a highway, well, let me say this. My understanding is that, and I believe you reflected at the previous city council meeting about the zoning code with the ridge line, is that was pertinent to a structure on the hillside versus a structure on Main Street. Could you please clarify that? Is that in fact the case?
Yes, that's an excellent summation of the point, which is that the upland slope standard does not apply to properties that aren't on or adjacent to upland slopes, which is over 160 feet elevation according to the municipal code. So the idea that that standard applies to this project is not correct from the legal perspective.
Thank you. So I think that also in my mind is common sense. For example, if I'm on Highway 1, the telephone poles and power lines are above the ridge line. So are the streetlights. So are homes. It's a matter of it's geometry, right? It's your perspective. It's the angle you're sitting at. If I am sitting on Highway 1 and a Prius goes by me in the left lane, that Prius is going to block the ridge line. I think the common sense here is that it's for a structure on the slope versus viewing anything from Highway 1. If I'm walking on Highway 1 and I am to the left of my wife, I am blocking the ridge line, right? So again, the common sense here is that I don't buy that premise. I think the interpretation from the city, legal interpretation, makes sense to me. And I just wanted to make that clarification tonight. And I appreciate all the comments from the council, all the questions, and the presentations and discussion this evening, comments from the public. I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much, everybody. Do we need a bio break? Yes. We're going to take a 5-minute break for biology. We got a smoke break for the bio break, and Marina owes me $5. Thank you. Back in session at 9:12. The next item is item 3A, discussion of an ordinance regulating smoking in the city of Half Moon Bay. I believe the outcome of this will be direction to staff. So I'm waiting for my, is there a presentation? Or just discussion?
No PDF, just what you have before you today on the staff report, which is a series of pretty straightforward questions that touch on the big topics. In order to get the right collective direction from council, we need to sort of go topic by topic, if you will. But before I sort of launch into this facilitation of a discussion, if there are any particular things that, in terms of the importance of this, how high on the priority list it is, things you don't desire that we can just cross off the list now, I'd invite anyone to speak up. Otherwise, we can dive in and push through these questions as necessary.
Okay, so I bring it back to council for discussion, and I need a moment to address an issue with my staff report, my PDF. Okay, so the questions, comments from staff, or do we have public comments? So we have no presentation, which is sort of weird. The discussion is around the smoking ordinance and regulating smoking in Half Moon Bay. And I don't know, Reed, do you want me to go through these? This is just really bizarre.
I'm happy to lead. It's just, the issue is, in order to draft an ordinance, we have to sort of start at the big and go towards the narrow. And so what I did here is I broke these out into parts so that we could talk about things like, does the city want to ban smoking in multi-unit residences? That was an issue that was not resolved the last time. And it's a big policy decision. Are you going to make that change or are you not? And if you do and you answer yes, there are subsequent follow-up questions.
Okay, got it. All right, so there are 7 items in the staff report. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards from the public. Shall we hear from the public and then go through the 7 items? Let's do that. First speaker is James Wilkerson, followed by Monica Ackerman.
Good evening, Mayor Kowalczyk and Vice Mayor Ruddick and council members. I was present at the January meeting when the council first considered a smoking ordinance here for Half Moon Bay and decided at that time to continue it for further study. Based upon what's in the agenda tonight, it seems as though that the council and staff have been very diligent in considering this is an important measure to protect both the health and well-being of not only city residents, but also visitors to our great city. Without addressing, except for maybe one event, specific provisions of the ordinance, council may eventually, that you may eventually pass, I would ask that you consider the ordinances that have been passed by the city of San Mateo and the county of San Mateo, and also the city of Palo Alto, which adopted a smoking ordinance just last year. And they're presently considering a proposal to add multifamily dwellings within that ordinance. And look at those provisions and as an aid in guiding what we may do with respect to smoking here in Half Moon Bay. With respect to the specific item that I want to be sure that the city includes in an ordinance that it might adopt is to treat e-cigarettes the same as regular tobacco cigarettes, as other communities have done. I want to thank you very much for your attention, your good work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir. Monica Ackerman, followed by Bob Gordon.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. You knew I was going to be here for the smoking thing, right? The last time that I spoke to you, I reminded you that I know that you're trying to keep everybody happy or content, including the out-of-town visitors that come to Half Moon Bay, thank goodness. But in order to make an ordinance that says there is no smoking in public, you have to consider that in many countries, most other countries, nobody would ever pass an ordinance like that. So the people that are going to come from other areas and take their vacation or whatever, they're going to just be laughing. And that's why I'm thinking that's what we need to prioritize. Get some really cute posters that say no smoking in a really funny way, so that the guys from Asia and from France can take a picture and say to their people at home, hey, this is how crazy they are in California. We already have a reputation for being on a different planet as it is. So I was thinking, how about a contest for making the signs? Put it out to all the schools, select the best one, and let's stop smoking in public. I have a condition called congestive heart failure, and for me, it's deadly to walk through cigarette smoke. So we have to consider it's not just a nuisance, it's not just because people don't put their cigarettes out properly. It's the fact that it's dangerous and unnecessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Bob Gordon, followed by John Ullum.
Good evening, council members and members of the public. My name is Bob Gordon, and I head the farm team, which is a subgroup of the San Mateo County Tobacco Education Coalition, and we're working to eliminate the sales of tobacco in pharmacies. We work closely with community-based organizations, including Youth Leadership Institute, Breathe California, the North County Prevention Partnership, as well as local pharmacists, doctors, dentists, dental hygienists, and schools of pharmacy. Now, I personally support all 7 items that are broken out on the agenda report, but I did want to draw your attention to number 6, which is the one that reads, should the city ban the sale of tobacco products at pharmacies through a pre-existing county retailer's tobacco permit program? So our coalition respectfully asks you to consider a policy that would make it so tobacco retailer licenses are no longer granted to pharmacies. And you may not know, but 8 other California communities have already done so, starting with San Francisco in 2008, and most recently in Daly City. In Daly City, the 4 drugstores that were selling tobacco saw their tobacco retailer licenses expire. That's how the policy works. Now, we know that our young people frequent local drugstores, and when they arrive at the front of a drugstore with their purchases, they usually see a huge wall of tobacco products and all of the Marlboro and Camel advertising associated with it. Community members and their elected leaders do have the power to decide that local pharmacies will not sell tobacco, and therefore the power to change what a pharmacy is here for a whole future generation. Thank you for your consideration as you discussed tonight.
Thank you very much. John Ullum, followed by Edith Kabusle.
Okay, my anti-smoking credentials are pretty solid. Can't stand it. Lost a couple girlfriends. Never got to a few of them because of smoking. Going to lose my dad pretty soon. Probably going to lose my brother that way. Lost my grandpa that way. Lost my best friend Tim Thomas that way. And every one of those guys would tell you, you're crazy to be talking about what people banning, what people do in their own home, what people do in their backyard. We are living in a society that is, people are so easily offended. And there are so many things that are dangerous about our lifestyle that we should be taken care of if we're going to talk about this. Now, kids going to the drugstore and seeing tobacco back there. Well, they see alcohol in the grocery department, and they see magazines right there at the front of the counter that are pushing unrealistic body imagery on little girls. They see candy that's right there all the time, purposely put to make impulse buys so that when mom gets to the cash register, there's something there for the kid to demand. They get another 50 cents or a buck out of the customer. Where are you going to stop? What's the limit? I mean, are you going to take care of us? You know that Dream Machines is a great thing, but you know all those airplanes that fly over the head are spewing lead over the landscape? All those airplanes. Now, are we going to ban Dream Machines? Are we going to ban diesel tractors, which are pretty important to our economy around here? There are days when I have driven by the fields that are being, with fertilizer or whatever they're treating with them, where I definitely get the smell of ammonia. So I'm being exposed to something. So we're going to go to an all-organic crop model in our, on the coast side here. I really think that we need to start as a society looking at what we're trading for all this protection from each other and from ourselves in exchange for the freedoms that we are losing at a very quick rate. And we know that teenage drinking is a huge problem. You can read the police reports. We know that drinking in general and driving is a huge problem. Yet this town would not function if we shut down the drinking in the restaurant industry, because you need the money. And if we were really serious about setting a principle, we would ban cigarettes, period. We don't need to have cigarettes sold in Half Moon Bay. Last thing, I suggest that everybody who wants bans on this and bans on that, watch a movie called Thank You for Smoking. And I guarantee you, you will understand why it is important that we be allowed to screw up our own lives in any way we choose to. And you will agree by the end of the movie that the ATF should be a convenience store. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Edith.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Edith Kabuslai. I am with the San Mateo County Health System, the Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention Unit, and the Tobacco Prevention Program within the Health Department. I just wanted to come up here this evening and let you know that we are available to respond to any questions that you might have tonight related to the tobacco ordinance that you are considering. And if there are topics related to tobacco that you wanted to get more information about, we're happy to come back and provide you information on those issues. Thank you.
Thank you for being available to us. And before we're done this evening, if you could make sure our staff has your contact information. I'm sure they will have a question about model ordinance or example cities that we could benchmark against, because I will ask that question in about 2 minutes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
New final speaker is Pam Fisher.
I wasn't planning on speaking to this issue because I really thought it was quite simple. I can choose to not go to the Dream Machine show. I don't have to expose myself to it. However, when you are walking down the sidewalk, people's rights end where mine begin. And in terms, I mean, again, this is not a black and white issue. This is lovely shades of gray. And we don't allow public drinking out on the streets. There are laws that we have to deal with issues, you know, I don't know how effectively, because then they go off behind the scenes and take the bottle with them. However, this is not as simple as denying freedoms or a nanny state or anything of such. It is a health hazard. And for people like Monica, who have congestive heart disease, she can't choose. What is she supposed to do? Stay in her apartment and not be able to walk on the sidewalks? I can choose to not order an alcoholic drink if I choose to at a restaurant. It's not a nanny state issue. This is a health issue. And having lived with a doctor for 37 years, I can't tell you the number of patients that he had who ended up dying of tobacco-related illnesses and other disastrous conditions like COPD. And it is a health issue, plain and simple. And you can choose to not expose yourself to certain things, but our sidewalks are public. And I hope that you choose to make the right decision in terms of health issues. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So let's walk through the 7 questions, and I'll ask staff and council to sort of observe and take notes, and with that, return to us at a future date with some of that formulated into some options. So trying to take this very wide net and narrow it to what is manageable for us. Before we start, I have a question for council. I know we have, I think it's Lee's law regarding marketing of alcoholic beverages and the amount of signage that can be in a business. It basically restricts the amount of signage. Are you familiar with that?
I believe, yeah, I am familiar with what you're referring to.
Well, I guess my question will be, is there a similar model for tobacco and tobacco paraphernalia marketing? And I guess if you don't have the answer tonight, that's fine. I'd like you to help us understand that if there is.
I don't have the answer for you
Okay.
tonight, but I can.
And then similarly, I want to understand if there are ordinances or example ordinances where we might, I believe you can restrict advertising for alcohol with a certain distance of a school. I want to understand if we can also provide something similar regarding tobacco products, because before we go through any of these questions, one thing I am interested in is such a restriction. So with that, we'll go through the 7 questions. We'll have some discussion on council and give some direction to staff. The first question is, shall the city declare non-consensual secondhand smoke a nuisance and trespass? This provides private parties with the ability to seek civil remedies against the individual who routinely exposes them to secondhand smoke. Discussion. Talk amongst yourselves.
That's like really the big chunk to start with. I've got a list of things here. And can I just add, for the sake of conversation, can we consider that the e-vaping electronic cigarettes are the same as smoking? Yes. Just so
Yep.
that would be one.
I'll give 5 nods on that. So if it smokes, regardless of the ignition source, it smokes.
Since we're talking about that, I will ask one, which is, as drafted originally when brought back to the council months ago, it included crack cocaine smoke, methamphetamine smoke. Those are all things that we would normally consider. One question is, do you also want to incorporate medical marijuana into the smoking ban? The effects of that would just be to prohibit public smoking of marijuana. People could always use their medications in the confines of their home or as allowed otherwise under the statute. But since we're talking about that, I thought we could jump to that question.
Where is it legal in California? Like, people can't drive and smoke, right? A marijuana, that is.
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Just to brief.
Apparently people in the audience are quite familiar with that too.
So the question is, from council is, do we want to consider the use of medical marijuana under the same conditions? I would argue that if it's medicinal in purpose, then I might be treat that differently, but I'm hearing what other people have to say.
I think that there are enough people who get medical marijuana prescriptions who do not have what I would consider a physical ailment. It's extremely easy to go to a marijuana clinic and get a prescription. I could walk in and get one. Say I have migraine headaches, and I'd be given a prescription for medical marijuana. I would like to say that medical marijuana comes in edible forms as well as smoking forms. So if we're talking about medical marijuana, we should be talking about marijuana that is smoked, period. Whether it's medical or not, it's still secondhand smoke.
That's great clarification. So the suggested clarification that if it smokes, it's included. Is that correct, council member? Including crack, or do we exempt crack? Crack's included. Okay, crack is included. Okay, so back to the question at hand. The question at hand is, shall the city declare non-consensual secondhand smoke a nuisance and trespass? City Attorney, can you give me an example when this might come into play?
Certainly. One of the topics that was brought up by council at the last discussion was, what if I'm in my backyard and my neighbor is smoking and he's bothering me in my backyard. What can I do about it? And ultimately, if somebody is lighting up a chimney next to you and your backyard constantly 24/7 is filled with the smoke of their cigar or cigarette, you have a right to quiet enjoyment of your property, but this would provide you with an express way to pursue that. Now, you could always pursue it by alleging that it's a nuisance and then having to establish that in court, but if the city declares exposure a nuisance, then it becomes easier for a private citizen to seek civil redress when we wouldn't be able to help them. They'd have to go to the courts, so it provides some opportunity for people who are being exposed through they can't get away from it, if you will. This would give them an opportunity to take some action.
One of the issues that comes to mind is fire pits. If somebody is having fires in their backyard, it's the same idea. So do we ban all smoke from all neighbors? I'd be against that.
This would not affect backyard fires. We're talking about smoking.
I understand that, and what I'm saying is I think that's something you ought to work out with your neighbor.
I agree. I mean, I don't want to ban smoking all over town. I know there are some people that are in favor of that. I think people have a right to. Maybe we can narrow it down to a couple of places, and I don't want us to be like really heavy-handed about it. I think most people are considerate. I know there were some issues when the senior community moved in, although that is a non-smoking environment. Many of them have a habit they haven't been able to quit. But a lot of that has calmed down. I mean, it looks like they've found their little corner. I'm not saying it's perfect out there, but it's not as crazy as it was 6 months ago. I mean, I'm hearing that's settled a little more. I'd like to say maybe on the sidewalks of the shopping centers, do we want to limit it at our parks? Maybe we limit it at the plaza.
Could we stick to the questions in the order they're there?
Yeah, that's actually question 2.
That's A. Should we?
That's 2.
It's 2, but it's saying should we ban it on city parks, beaches, streets, sidewalks? So I'm just saying I'm in favor of sidewalks at the shopping centers, and.
We were on question 1. Sorry.
And yeah, that's question 1, right?
No, you're on question 2.
2A. So it is. I skipped a page ahead. Okay, sorry.
So, are there any council members in support of declaring non-consensual secondhand smoke a nuisance and trespass?
Mr. Mayor?
Council member.
This could go on for eternity. I prefer to look at what our county and our experts have put together and bring that back to us to evaluate if it is working, if it's not working, and how do we respect private individuals' rights. I mean, San Francisco's got the strictest of everything, and they've screwed it all up anyway. Just look at the park the other day, whatever it was. And so that's my perspective of what staff's recommendation should be.
Got it. Thank you. I think that's important to have that kind of a reference, but I still think we should go through these questions and chime in. And we don't have to belabor it, but we should this. Are there any other comments on question 1? I'm hearing no direction on the question 1.
I just think that, society is litigious enough, and there are probably ways to sue, even if we did not have, such a nuisance and trespass ordinance. So I'm not sure it's even necessary.
Yep.
That's
okay. So you have no direction on question 1. Question 2, shall the city ban smoking in outdoor and indoor public places? If yes, where should this ban be extended? City parks, beaches, streets, sidewalks, places open to members of the general public, etc. Discussion.
As for A, I would say yes to all of the above.
I would as well. I think we can send a message by banning smoking in on city property in our city hall, which is already banned obviously from other legislation, and on our beaches, our sidewalks, our public spaces. I think that sends pretty strong message about smoking. In general, I don't like to put boundaries around things, but this is about people's rights. But this, you don't have the right to affect me if I'm not smoking, and so that's where I really draw the line. So I think that's where I stand on that one. Is there other support for this or any rejection of this?
Yeah, just I think you have to be cautious there because you got to look at the financial aspect that you will have to provide a smoking area for your employees and for visitors like the airport does. I mean, I believe that's true, is that not? We can't, if you have employees on your property that are smokers, you can't say we're going through this at the San Francisco Produce Terminal, I'll make it very quickly. So we don't want any more smoking in the produce terminal, but you don't have the right to tell them they can't go out of their business and not smoke. You know, and it's a tough legal thing, and I'm not the expert.
So John, are you suggesting that by including sidewalks and streets, that means somebody cannot exit their business and stand outside and smoke, and that is the issue?
Okay, so I was in Calabasas in January, staying at a motel. I arrived at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the motel was next to some department, a government department, county or something like that. And they had set aside a smoking area. I don't know if they were required to do it or whether they did it voluntarily, sort of out in front of the building. And there must have been like 30 people out there smoking cigarettes. And the smoke was wafting into my hotel room window, you know? So you can set aside a place outside and you still might be affecting people, not just outdoors, you know, but indoors. So I don't know what you do about that.
It might behoove us to look to see if there are places in the city that would be far enough away from the general public that it would be safe. I'd like to consider that.
Perhaps near the fire tower.
Next to the fire tower. I love it. In the fire tower.
Councilmember Frazier.
You know, I just think doing all streets and sidewalks and parking lots is just so restrictive. I mean, you could be in a building and you decide to go out to your car, your family's inside, you come and you have a quick smoke. And I guess I'm hopeful that people would be considerate to other people. And if someone says, oh, that smoke's in my way, then they, oh, excuse me, I'll go over here. I mean, it's one, and how do you enforce that too? Like I mentioned earlier, I'm okay if you want to ban the sidewalks in the shopping centers because everyone's moving from the different stores and that's a public walkway. Just to say all streets and all sidewalks in the community, you can't go out and smoke, I think is really harsh. I mean, you can be in someone's house and they don't allow smoking, but they need to go out and have a smoke break and they're standing out by their car, by the sidewalk having a smoke. And maybe they're not around other people. I mean, I just don't want us to go over and penalize that person that's gone out there. It's just, it seems too restrictive.
So I concur. So, but to move us forward, so we don't have to decide, I think the direction is support to ban smoking in indoor and outdoor public places with the specifics to be determined when this comes back. I'm hearing consensus toward parks, beaches, and public areas. I'm hearing questions about streets and sidewalks. So when that comes back, I think we can make a final determination on it. That way we can just keep moving forward.
I really do like the idea about, you know, the signage contest or a signage program, you know, where you kind of, you know, soften it for the public, something that's, you know, maybe humorous and uniquely identifiable. I think that's a clever idea. So.
Me too. Item 3, any other comments on item 2?
The only thing I would offer for council is that there are already existing state and federal laws about smoking within open distances of doorways to workplaces. So in terms of Main Street, streets and sidewalks, probably difficult to do that legally under the law that already exists. When you look at maybe a block off back in those residential neighborhoods behind City Hall, there's no necessarily business place. Presumably you could walk on the sidewalk there and not be in violation of state law. So that's just a consideration for you to mull over as we move on.
Got it. Thank you. 3, shall the city ban indoor smoking in multi-unit residences? Vice Mayor is ready to jump in.
So I think, if we allow people who own single-family homes to smoke inside their residences, I think we have to be careful about banning people in multifamily, rental units or condos that they might own, but share common walls from smoking. So I know that hotels and motels will have a mix. They'll have some non-smoking rooms and some smoking rooms. And so maybe you, instead of just banning it outright, that brings in issues of, class and income and things, you allow people to designate smoking units and non-smoking units, and maybe you charge a little bit more for the smoking unit and allow the property owner / manager to, get a little, money to clean up the place when somebody moves out or something like that. And that way, if somebody needs to smoke medical marijuana, maybe they get a smoking room, smoking unit. Somebody who's hardcore can't quit, they can get a smoking unit. But I would prohibit smoking in hallways, stairwells, and outdoor areas. But allow people, if they want, to have a smoking unit and they smoke inside their unit. And that way they're really only exposing themselves and consensual family members. There may be children, which might be an issue, but certainly more people are exposed outdoors than they are indoors. So I would say opt for a sort of a hotel model for smoking and non-smoking units, rather than just banning it outright. I do know that state law allows owner-managers of multifamily developments to have their development be completely smoke-free. You can do that. The law allows for that. And there's now a bill in Sacramento that would allow owners of multifamily dwelling units to also ban the smoking of marijuana, either recreationally or medicinally, from their developments as well. So they already have that option, but I think we should, for those who don't do 100% smoke-free, that we allow a mix. That would be my recommendation. That would be more fair.
Other comments?
I can agree with some of the things Councilmember Ruddick has indicated on the multi-units. We have many multi-unit buildings here that do have that restrictive law. You're not allowed to smoke in there. Where it falls down and where I've been asked to help is when the managers aren't enforcing it or they're not paying attention, and the tenant may be having a hard time getting the manager to enforce it. And sometimes all it takes is, we're going to publicize and get after you. If there's something that we can do to help those buildings that do have those restrictions, to put a little enforcement onto the manager of the building, because some of them are ignoring that.
Other comments?
Yeah, I don't think it's our place to interfere. I think that's between the manager and the tenant. I don't see where we play a role there.
So my thoughts are, so I agree with that. And the exception I would make is, maybe it goes back to point 1, is where smoking in one unit in a multi-unit dwelling is identifiable or exposed into a second unit. And does that fall more under a nuisance thing, or, right? So my point is, if someone's in their home, whether it's independent 4-wall home or a shared wall home, it's sort of, what you do in your house is sort of your business until what you do in your house affects me or the neighbor who's next door. And so I would want coverage for that situation. And I don't know if that is accommodated here. I think you're sort of hearing us a little all over the place on this one.
The answer to your question is that yes, the multi-unit residence that you're speaking about, where you have a shared wall and you're impacted by smoke, would be included in this. Whether that person could do anything independent of the existing law, that was the first question we asked. Do you want to give a private right of action so that if someone's landlord won't do anything about it, if somebody's facility manager won't take action, they would have the right to pursue the action on their own. But the multi-unit facilities that we're talking about as defined include where you have a shared wall, whether it's a side wall, you're on top of somebody or below somebody. Anytime there's a connection wall, because smoke has a tendency to migrate through even what seems to be solid walls, you can smell it in the next room kind of thing. So they want to, the proposal which was put forward, and which is, you guys can discuss now, is do you want to include all those multi-unit residences and say that there's no smoking permitted within them? And I don't know if I answered your question. I think I may have just opened up another layer.
No, you did. So my position is I would want to make the nuisance rule available so that somebody could take action easily if they're exposed to smoke in their private residence.
Right. So do we want to revisit item 1 then? Because the previous direction we got was to take no action.
I want to revisit item 1 for that reason. And my position is I want to revisit item 1, and I do not want to ban smoking in a private residence, even though people should not smoke in any residence.
So no on item 3 then, is that right?
That's my position now, but do we have, is there opposition to that position from the council? If you don't say anything, I'm going to get my way. Next, item 4, shall the city ban smoking at places of employment?
I thought that's already covered in the law.
I thought so too.
Is that not already covered in the state law?
I'm sorry, I'm getting multiple questions from staff. The question that was asked here was, number 4, should the city ban smoking at places of employment? It's a double down, you're correct. It's saying, not only does everyone else think this is bad, we do too, and we're going to prohibit it.
Okay, us too. Number 5, generally what places might be carved out from this ban? Single-family homes, residences. So what is a significant tobacco retailer?
A significant tobacco retailer is defined as the type of establishment that deals primarily in tobacco or tobacco-related products. So cigarette stores, smoke shops, hookah lounges, cigar bars, those types of facilities.
Excellent. I do not want significant tobacco retailers carved out. I want significant tobacco retailers to not be allowed to have smoking in their premises.
So just to be clear, you're asking for an exception for the smoking ban to apply to significant tobacco retailers so that they can smoke in the shops?
No, I am saying the opposite.
Opposite.
I am restricting smoking in significant tobacco retailers for that reason.
Gas station.
And if you look at the 5A subset, there's a bunch of potential things that would be carved out from the ban. Do you want to speak to any of those as a council?
Well, the streets and sidewalks, we've already discussed that. And I guess my feeling is it depends on the street and the sidewalk. Like Councilmember Frazier mentioned, sidewalks that are in shopping centers, Main Street probably, because that's a shopping area. Automobiles, if the windows are up, I don't have a problem with that.
So the only one I would want to exempt, if I may add on to that, council member, is the private residences, single-family homes and private residences. And all the others, I don't want to call out separately. And I would explicitly want to restrict smoking in a significant tobacco retailer, by definition.
In a what?
in a significant tobacco retailer. Other comments? Okay. Moving on. Should the city ban the sale of tobacco products at pharmacies through a pre-existing county retailer permit program?
Yes.
Yes. So consensus. Moving on. Shall the city ban the distribution of free tobacco product samples and coupons?
Yes.
And then the other item I brought up in the beginning, I would like to explore the location of businesses within 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 feet of a school, and also the marketing of tobacco products with those same distances, much like we see for alcohol. And then to the earlier comment from Councilmember Muller, I think it would be great if there was a best practice example from another community that we could have for comparison. And if our guests this evening have an example they might share, I think it would be great if staff would talk with them. So we started with a bucket of mud on this topic. Is the mud more clear at this point?
It is, and I will briefly summarize so you guys can tell me I'm wrong somewhere along the way if I am off base. But there was a decision that you wanted to, you're okay with the private right of action, correct? That's question one.
Correct.
As for number two, you guys were supportive, council was supportive of the ban on indoor and outdoor public places as listed, and the discussion about which specific locations will be determined at the next meeting when we come back with a model.
Correct.
There will be no ban on multi-unit residences.
Correct.
And all the other ones are yes, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Correct. Any other discussion from council? I am open to other things other communities are doing that we haven't thought of. I think in general, we want to promote our beautiful, healthy place. And if there are other examples from other ordinances, I want to consider that. And I really do like the sign idea and those other things. So thank you. When would we expect to see this come back to council?
At the council's pleasure. We can prioritize this as a bring it back next meeting. We could put it out a month or two.
Okay, so to the city manager, whenever it fits in nicely in the upcoming meeting. Thank you. Let's see, the next item is future discussion, possible agenda items. Are there any items for future discussion, possible agenda items?
Yes. Art and music in the park. I presented staff and council members with a proposal that I wrote up that we add art in the park to our Concerts in the Park series. I'd like to have this looked at and brought to City Council for the next agenda so that we can move forward. Summer's here, time's of the essence. There have been 2 objections made to the idea over the past couple of months where we've been talking about this.
Council member, so we're just this item is to put it on the agenda for a future meeting, not to have a discussion on the topic. So if you want to have this on the agenda at the next meeting, we can add this on the agenda for the next meeting.
And no discussion.
At this point, we're not able to because it's not been agendized, so we can't discuss it.
Sounds like a deal.
Oh. Okay, so it'll be on the agenda. We understand where you're coming from. I thought this was going to come as part of the budget, but let's discuss it. Add this to the agenda. City manager.
Yes, I just want to get a little clarification along the lines that you just mentioned, Mayor. At the last council meeting, council as a body gave me direction to bring this back as part of the budget process. This is one of the options that will be considered by council in terms of enhancements, program enhancements. So it's one that we are currently researching in terms of pricing, if you will. Remember, we priced some out, and we had others that we needed clarification, and we got that clarification, I think, at the last meeting. So we're pricing those out when we brought to the council on June 21st as part of the budget study session. I don't know that I can have it prepared by the next meeting. Actually, no, I cannot have it prepared by the next meeting.
Okay, so my suggestion is this. So that's my recollection. So the Art in the Park was part of the budget process. That's happening in June. My suggestion is that we have this as a discussion item so we clearly understand Councilmember Penrose's position, and it's a council discussion at the next meeting.
Yeah, and just to be clear, it's that means that it's not the next meeting, but it's the following.
But I think Councilmember Penrose might be out of town.
Be out of town.
So can we have this scheduled at the next convenient meeting where Dr. Penrose will be in attendance?
I just want to be clear, the next meeting is May 17th. We just won't be ready for that time.
I'm sorry, City Manager, I'm not suggesting that staff prepare anything, other than this is a council discussion of this topic that was presented here tonight. So the council member wanted to have a discussion on this topic.
Very good.
So it would be a discussion on this topic. All the council members can share their perspectives, knowing that this item is coming with the budget in June.
Thank you.
We all good? Okay.
That works.
I have an item I would like to be considered at a future meeting for discussion, and no priority. It can happen when it's convenient to be slotted into an agenda, which is the topic of making public records requests available to the public overall, either through our website or through some other means, so that everybody can benefit from those PRAs. So I'd like my idea is that the question asked and the information provided then just be publicly available so anybody can see the question and see the information. So at some future meeting, I'd like to have a discussion of accounting for time, dollars, and sharing of information on PRAs more broadly. Okay. And with that, we have more. This is going to be busy. Yes, Vice Mayor. Oh.
Yes, I'd like to have it on a future agenda that we discuss making Parks and Recs a commission. We talked about this months ago, and most of council, I think, thought it was a good idea, but we never did reach a conclusion.
Mr. Mayor, similarly, this is on the list of council items to be considered with the budget. You asked us to bring that back. I think, in fact, that was one that we already priced out. We were going to get a facilitator to not only potentially consider whether it's a commission or not, but I think more importantly, what is the charge of that group and whether it warrants a committee commission, how often they should meet, what's their mission, what's their purpose, and perhaps better utilizing that group.
So it's an agendized item that comes with the budget. Okay. Vice Mayor.
Yes, I'd like to agendize an item. The item would be to waive the appeal fee for the fire tower appeal. The appeal actually produced a community compromise that all parties seem to be satisfied with, so it produced, valuable results. So I would like us to consider waiving that fee, which was quite high. I think it was $2,600 or something like that. So all or a portion of that fee. I'd like to have a discussion about that.
For that one in particular, because of a compromise, because one of the reasons we increased the fees was there was an abuse, and it's not fair to someone who's gone through work, even if someone doesn't like it. I think appeals were like $100 at one time, or there was no appeal. And that's not really fair for anyone doing a project.
We can't discuss the item, sorry.
Oh, you're right. So my question was, is it for this one just in particular?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Can we be done? All right, thank you. This concludes the May 3rd City Council meeting. Thank you,
I was going to
everybody.
have an agenda item that we